Welcome to the Middle Tech Podcast, this region's leading business podcast shining a light on technology, entrepreneurship, and the future of business in Kentucky and beyond. Our goal is to advance the ecosystem by bringing attention to the founders, changemakers, innovators, and those supporting them. Middle Tech's content can be found on your favorite podcast streaming app, social channels, and YouTube. We encourage you to follow and participate in the conversation. Let's discuss and build the future.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Middle Tech Podcast. You've got Evan Knowles and Logan Jones here. We just sat down with Jacob Huff of FreshFry. So they're a very exciting startup out of Louisville, Kentucky. That is just a wild story that we enjoyed hearing from Jacob. They really just started out as a company that was doing experiments. I mean, they weren't even necessarily a company. They were two friends that started doing some experiments with biodiesel and frying oil from restaurants. And eventually they worked their way to a point where they had a sustainable business concept and idea and product. And ever since then, it's just been such a wild story that's been happening right in Louisville, Kentucky. But what they're doing is they've built these pods that will go into a restaurant's frying oil rather, and clean the oil. And so one of the problems with operating a restaurant is those frying machines are very expensive, and it takes a lot of time to clean them, and it's hard to dispose of that waste. And they're putting these pods in there that are completely natural. They're made out of plant. How do they describe it? They're made out of plant
Byproduct.
Mm-hmm. And they clean the oil. And so what that does for the restaurant is it allows the oil to last longer. They don't have to swap it in and out as much, and it ultimately saves them money and time. So it's a really cool product that's absolutely exploded.
Yeah, and like Evan mentioned, this is something that that's in an industry that you might not think about very often, and that's one of those opportunities where it's just ripe for innovation. And that's what they've come in and done. Cleaning your frying oil is not necessarily a new idea, but the way they're doing it, they've innovated and come up with a really good solution that restaurants really value. So we got to talk about the founding story, how FreshFry actually came to be. We talked about this crazy roller coaster that they've been on since the founding. Evan kind of hinted at it there, but they had a really huge opportunity to go and essentially go to market super fast. And sometimes too much growth too quickly can become a problem for a company. So we talk about that. We talk about how they actually battled through COVID. They turned to selling sanitizer at one point during this COVID pandemic to stay alive. And we talk about that kind of fighting mentality and doing whatever it takes to stay alive. We talk about how to react to those kind of obstacles and those different difficult market conditions. So, it just takes a different type of mentality to keep pushing forward. And Jacob does a great job talking about how they actually made it through those really tough times. And then we also, as we always do, like to talk about the local startup scene wherever the companies we're talking to are, this time being in Louisville. So we got to talk about the local Louisville startup scene as well. And now as we always do, we like to give a shout out to our sponsors. So starting off, we've got Land Betterment. So as you guys know, Land Betterment is a company we've had on the podcast for episode 97. It's a company we've loved following this whole time. We love what they're doing over at Land Betterment. And what Land Betterment is actually doing is taking old coal mines, old strip mines, and upcycling them by putting those sustainable businesses on them that can then provide good paying jobs for the communities that have oftentimes lost them because the coal mines are now shut down. And one of the topics we always try to bring to light on this podcast is sustainability and green technology. And we just love what Land Betterment is doing because they are taking an old problem and solving it with new and innovative solutions. So again, we just love what they're doing. We love working with them. We're super grateful for their sponsorship. So if you guys would like to learn more about them, you can visit their website at landbetterment.com. You can go listen to our episode with them. Again, that's episode 97.
Yep. And another sponsor we've got here is Brandon Johnson of the Johnson Law Group. If you need any legal help, I suggest reaching out to him. If you're starting a company, the legal side of things is very important. I am working with him currently on restricted stock agreements and equity incentive programs. He helped me set up my corporation and helped me and my co-founders navigate that, which is often very scary for a founder. because not many founders actually have that legal background. And so he made it fun. He was very responsive. So anytime I hit him up, he was quick to respond and sent me what I needed. He's from Louisville, Kentucky, or he's not from Louisville, Kentucky, but he graduated from Louisville, worked for companies like Louisville Slugger, Papa John's, has represented companies like WeatherCheck, and Instagram influencer. So he has a very wide background on what he can actually do. So I suggest whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're starting, you want to reach out and get his help. And I mentioned he was from Louisville, Kentucky. That was wrong. He's from Fordsville, Kentucky. If you want to learn more, he does free consults. I encourage you to go to middletech.com/Johnson Law to learn more and set up a free consult, and just talk to him. He's many lawyers are going to be willing just to chat because they're there to help founders, and it's makes sense for them because the more founders they help, the more money they make in the long run, and so they're always going to be very willing to help. So reach out.
Yeah. So again, thanks to our sponsors. They allow us to scale this thing up to a little bit bigger of a level than what we've been able to do in the past. So we're super grateful for them. But we're going to go and dive into this episode. We hope you guys enjoy.
All right. Thanks for joining, everybody. We're super excited about this episode. We've heard so many good things about FreshFry. We got a referral and an intro from Noah Bass, which we're grateful for. He also introduced us to Matt Langen at Stucco. So today's episode, as I said, is with FreshFry. We're with the founder, co-founder, and COO, Jacob Huff. So thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Excited to share a little bit about FreshFry and get the word out.
Yeah, well, we've been hearing about all the momentum you've had. We jumped on a call before this episode, and it just got me super excited for this conversation. It sounds like you have an amazing story, lots of learnings, but more importantly, you guys are having a lot of success, and we're looking forward to hearing about it and seeing what your view of the future is for FreshFry. So before we get into any of that, though, let's talk about your background. Where you're from, education, and then a little bit of your professional background up until FreshFry.
Yeah, I grew up in Central Kentucky, grew up in Lebanon, went to school, Marion County High School. And then, from there I was lucky enough to have a great soccer coach that also taught a brand new engineering program at our high school. So that kind of steered me down the engineering path, aside from just being okay at math and science. That was the natural path that I took. So I looked at all the schools around the area, ended up deciding on the University of Louisville to go to their speed school. Initially thought that I wanted to be a civil engineer. Found out that civil engineers, their job is to make sure that things don't move, but quickly found out that that really wasn't for me. So the opposite of that is mechanical engineering. So I like to make things move, and that really excited me a little bit more. So from that, in college, I took an internship with Cummins in their high horsepower division in Southern Indiana, and did 3 semesters there. Learned a lot. The one thing I learned was that I really didn't want to go work for a huge corporate environment. It just really wasn't for me. And so after that, after graduation, I took another internship with a local heavy machinery dealer. And I was the first engineer that they had hired. They mainly hired the technical folks, the people who were able to go out in a huge truck, go fix anything. So I looked up to those people whenever I worked there. So I learned a lot from that group, and I learned a lot from that job, and kind of topped out there. I learned the culture there was kind of put in your time, and that's how you moved up. That did sit well with me. I'm pretty impatient, a very competitive person. So I didn't like the thought of, putting in 5-10 more years just to move up the ladder that way. So, which brings me kind of back to FreshFry, where, I met Jeremiah, who's our CEO and founder. Met him in the engineering program at U of L. I think pretty much the first semester I was there. We just kind of became friends, hit it off, and stayed friends throughout our college experience. And when it came time to around grad school time, he was working on a project where he would collect waste oil from a Wendy's on campus. He would haul that over to the lab. He would process that and turn it into biodiesel. And then he would in turn give that to the TARC system that ran around our campus. Uh, During that process, he found out one that it's a very messy job. There's not a lot of money in it unless you're doing it at scale. But the one thing he did discover was really the problem to be solved there is in the back of house. It's not really in the biodiesel space. That really wasn't what excited him about that sector. So kind of took his efforts into that direction, focusing on the back of house and how we can make innovations there. His background's in chemical engineering. So he took what he learned, what he knew about the chemistry of oil, and just that general engineering background. How do I make this process better? And that's where the idea of FreshFry kind of started.
And when you say the back of house, you're saying but the kind of back of house of a restaurant, the behind, where you order your food, you've got all the fry stations. And so he was beginning to realize that, the opportunity was for cleaning that oil in the back of house and allowing them to reuse it. Is that basically the crux of what he began to realize?
Yeah, I mean, it was unique being on campus because they really didn't have many options when it came to throwing out their waste oil. So anytime he showed up, they gave him as much as he could take. So he was trying to figure out, if they're trying to throw out all this oil, what if I can figure out a way to make sure it stays around longer in the back of the restaurant? Because the fryer is one of the most important devices in your kitchen if you're a kitchen or a fast food restaurant. So any way to be able to optimize that has got to be able to pay dividends, not only for the customer but for whoever can come up with that product.
What are they doing with the oil? So if you're not turning it into biodiesel, and you're not cleaning it and reusing it longer, what was going on before? How do you dispose of frying oil?
So we've found that there are basically two segments of the market. There's your top 200 chains that have been dealing with frying oil for years and years and years. They've had the experience to be able to optimize it. They're taking a chemical, sprinkling that into their oil using expensive filtering equipment, and then filtering that back out. So they're doing that either once or twice a day to try to polish the oil, keep it around as much as they can. The other segment of the market has looked at that option and said, that's not for us. Either the process is too complicated, the equipment's too expensive, whatever it is. They've basically decided to do nothing and just live with what their oil life is going to be just naturally. So people choose that for operations to be simple, and then when the oil starts to go bad, they put it in a container and then haul it out back. So it goes into a waste dumpster, and then somebody comes and hauls it away. And then that person will try to consolidate as much waste oil as they can and then sell that just like a commodity. So they sell it to somebody who's going to turn it into biodiesel. There's a market to turn that into feed for animals, any number of things.
Yeah. So now I think it's a good opportunity for you to go into an actual product that you're providing to solve that problem, and how you came to realize that you had a solution here.
Yeah, so if you think about those two segments, the one segment that they have the corporate arm of the business to go in and look at the innovation and say, if you want to cook KFC chicken, this is the filtering equipment you buy, this is the filter powder you buy, filter paper, all this stuff. So they give you a process. And then you think about that other segment, we said, can we take that expensive and complicated process and basically put that in a pod? So we wanted to capture that into this is what it looks like. Basically, it looks like a cornhole bag, but all the science is inside. So the traditional filter powders and things that if you've ever worked a fryer that you'd be familiar with, like I said, you have to sprinkle that into your oil and then filter it back out. And it's that action of filtering it that cleans the oil. Our product is different in the sense that you just set it in the fryer, let it soak overnight, and all of the impurities that build up in your fryer while you're cooking throughout the day, while you're heating the oil, all of those contaminants need something to react with. And so we give it this pod to react with. So your oil stays stable, it stays high quality, and ultimately extends the life of the oil.
And I'd imagine you guys were probably one of the more innovative players in the space. What does the space look like in terms of competition, and who else is operating within it?
Yeah, I mean, basically the biggest player is the one who services all of those fast food chains. There really hasn't been someone before us that's really developed a product for, our product is perfect for the mom and pop restaurant, the people who only own one location. They're trying to watch their margins. They can't invest in expensive equipment. So we were basically the only people that have given them another option, unless you want to take the step and buy the equipment and use the filter powders that are out there. And all of them are synthetic, man-made products, whereas we've taken basically a plant byproduct, just plant shells, and just done a little bit of processing to it and put it in a pod. Because if you think about, I just saw Elon Musk has got this tweet out, or this prize. What's the next carbon capture technology? I'll pay millions of dollars for this. And everybody, it's like trees, right?
Yeah, I've seen some funny ones too.
Basically, what's the best thing at capturing contaminants in nature? And it's plants. So we basically took that idea, found a raw material for it. We believe in sustainability. We're trying to, play into that circular economy. We're not trying to just build things to just be thrown away. So we're taking a plant that's burned to generate electricity, and then that byproduct would otherwise go to a landfill. And so we're capturing that and then reprocessing that and turning it into a value-added product.
How did you arrive at that solution? Was it Jeremiah's understanding of chemical engineering? Did you try a bunch of different ideas and just see what worked? Like, talk about how you actually found the original solution.
The product has come a long way, and I give all the credit to Jeremiah and his chemical engineering background and his desire to make just the best product possible. But in all honesty, we took the competitor's product and tried to put it into a pod, because the product itself was just, how can we make something self-contained so it's less messy, easier to use? So we put the competitor's product in there, and it was just a mess. It didn't work. So we figured out how to reprocess that, tried that as a solution as well. But we determined that, there's a reason why they sell this powder just in bulk, is because, the costs involved. Whenever you start to add this packaging and the labor, the filter paper all in one, it kind of just priced itself out. And so we had to find a plant or a plant byproduct that, if it's going to a landfill, it's going to come pretty cheap. So we looked at other industries. What products are they using to filter other, looking at water filtration and some other things. So we looked at parallel processes and ultimately landed on the proprietary plant product that we have today.
And that is a proprietary product that you guys have. Is that what gives you guys the advantage over your competition? Do you guys have any patents or any sort of IP protection over that?
Yeah, we're patent pending.
Mhm.
So we've done that in private for a reason, because our biggest competitor is a huge player in this market. But I think our main competitive advantage is just speed to market, and just our ability to give the customers what they need. This pod initially started out as a coffee filter that was just stapled together. And so we just said, all right, here's the idea. Put this in your fryer and see if it works. Well, it failed immediately, but once the chef saw the idea, it's like, this has merit. So then we went back to the drawing board, put the granules that we made into filter paper, and we took a sewing machine and sewed it shut. That worked a lot better. And then we just kept going from there, and from there we got to what we have today.
And speed to market, when we spoke on the phone, you guys had a really exciting opportunity and took advantage of it to its full potential with Cisco. Walk us through that opportunity and how that's helped you.
It's a crazy story. We started off with a distributor locally called Creation Gardens, and we'll forever be thankful to those folks because they took a chance on us. We were making these pods on a fold up tailgate table in the back of what's now a Bean coffee shop, and I was delivering cases to the distributor in the back of my Camry for them to then put on their legit food service distributor trucks. But throughout that process, we started to see and meet more restaurateurs, and figured out, if we want to be taken seriously, we have to go after those big distributors. So that's what led us to Cisco. Cisco Louisville also took a chance on us. They said, we love the idea. We love that you guys are entrepreneurs here in Louisville. So we started gaining traction here in Louisville. We would just go and we started at the football stadium, the Yum Center, just went from there. But Jeremiah was actually supposed to meet with a huge C-store chain, and the guy blew him off. And it just so happened that somebody from the corporate office was sitting in the lobby, overheard Jeremiah's sales pitch, and said, we have a program that we do twice a year. It's called Cutting Edge Solutions. And it's similar to a Shark Tank vibe, where anybody that has a new product can go up to Cisco corporate, pitch the idea, and they would launch it nationwide. And nationwide for Cisco means 73 operating companies. So 73 cities would hold it in their huge warehouses. And at that time, we were just in Creation Gardens. We were just in Cisco Louisville. So obviously, we jumped on the idea. We actually, I think we heard about the program around February, pitched it in the summer, and were selected in the fall. But it took us another full year to develop a product in the supply chain that could even keep up with the scale that they were talking. So when it finally came time to launch, so we had gone through probably three iterations between being selected as a cutting edge solution and actually launching, which thank goodness we did, because we would have fallen flat on our face. But so we get to, I think it's around August of 2018, sorry. And our team of 3 were spread out across the US trying to pitch our product to the Cisco sales team for them to then go sell it to their customers. And so I'm in LA, I think Jeremiah's in Boston or something. I mean, we're spread out just trying to do our damnedest to pitch this product. And so the product launches, and we were the number 1 selling product in this whole program, like through the life of this program. And come to find out, our supply chain couldn't keep up. We outsold products from Tyson, Beyond Meat. Their product, their new sausage was in our cohort. We outsold them, and then the orders kept coming and coming and coming, and then we all ended up having to say, we can't quite keep up with this demand. But we tried to figure it out. It's just the manufacturing process at scale totally changed.
And were you not able to? Was it like you either had to be all in and you had to be able to service those 70 something locations, or could you not have just had a shorter or a smaller supply, or I'm trying to figure out how to say it,
distribution,
just smaller distribution? Yeah, was there no middle ground, or did they just want you to be all in?
There was no middle ground, so we kind of choked on the growth there, because we went from, you got to think, we were in like 2 cities doing about 30 cases a week, and then they wanted us to go to 73 cities, and we were doing between 700 and 800 cases a week. And to be able to service that account, you have to have stocking orders weeks in advance before the customer even gets the product. So we were getting stocking orders for 6, 7, 8,000 cases at a time. We had never even thought about how we could make that much product at the time.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a good problem to have, but how have you, I'm sure it's very stressful. I'm sure it's really hard. How have you, continued to, push forward and get back to a place where you can service those kind of requests?
Yeah. So we had to basically take our whole supply chain and go back to the drawing board, because as you can imagine, our team at that stage were like, we're just choking on orders. So we were trying to throw in any idea we could at the wall to try and figure it out. We were buying pieces of equipment. We were talking to different toll processing partners, paying for as much overtime as we could, but we just couldn't outrun the problem. So we had to go back to the drawing board and figure out a manufacturing process that worked. And so 2018 in the fall, we finally figured out a scalable manufacturing process around summer of 2019. So we actually went back to our partners that actually burned the plant char, and they had actually had a little bit of experience trying to granulate the product. And so we went back to them and we're like, hey, this is our problem. What equipment do you recommend? We were just trying to learn as much as we could about the product and ways to process it. So they threw us a lifeline and got us through. Thankfully, we were able to salvage the relationship with Cisco. We're still with them, and we're still growing with Cisco. But yeah, we just had to, kind of swallow our pride and say, look, we messed up. We weren't ready for this amount of growth. But we came back to them and said, we're going to do as much as we can. We were able to save face by just being, upfront and honest with them.
Yeah.
We were trying to be transparent and just say, look, this is the situation we have. We're going to keep grinding away at it, and luckily we were able to get through it.
Have they gotten this before? I mean, certainly they've got to expect to some level of like this would happen. If they're taking startups, putting them through this program, and then saying here's 70 something markets, like I'm sure this happens often. How did they receive it?
We found out that this program was really for the larger companies to just test ideas. So these larger companies already had supply chains. So you can think, Sara Lee coming up with a different cake to launch, or a different way of serving it, or Rubbermaid coming up with a different mop configuration or a mop bucket. And then you can think Tyson and Beyond Meat, these companies that are well capitalized, and really they knew what to expect. We came to the table and we said, we have no idea what this will do nationally if you launch it. Cisco really had no idea because they'd never seen a product like it. So yeah, it was a good thing that it kind of blew up, but unfortunately we weren't able to maintain that growth, but we're getting back there.
Yeah, that sounds like a good challenge to be faced with, to kind of be thrown into the water like that and have to figure it out. But I think a good takeaway from what you're talking about there is facing your problem and just kind of being honest with yourself and with, any other parties involved about it. And then, you get past that issue, you get past that problem. and then COVID hits. So tell us a little bit about
story gets crazier.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about how COVID affected you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we get into late Q3, Q4 of 2019. We launch, our sales are just straight up hockey stick growth. And then our supply chain fails, it goes back down. We figure it out again mid 2019, and now we're on the way up again. So at this point, we had just taken seed funding from local angel investors, friends and family. We were living off that money to get us to the point where we are mid 2019. And so then Jeremiah's job was to go back and, all right, here's our company. This is what we've been through. We have a huge customer. We have a whale of a customer, Cisco. They stuck with us through thick and thin. Our sales are recovering. Our supply chain is strong. And so we start to raise a Series A. And we found some great partners and ended up with a term sheet around, I want to say, late January, early February. And we're riding high. You get a term sheet, sales are good, supply chain is strong. We're just ready to hit the ground running in 2020. And then COVID hits. So that's when you really have to take a second and pause. And we came through it largely unscathed. Our restaurant partners really took it on the chin. And so whenever we're a product selling to the restaurant space, we had to take a step back, say, look, these people don't want to hear a sales pitch right now. So we basically took a cue from Cisco, and they said, we have to kind of shut down and take care of our customers any way we can. And so our sales went to zero for a while, and we had term sheet in hand, but no money in hand. And we understood what our partners were faced with, because they had portfolio companies that they had to take care of, and they weren't able to invest in us before they made sure that their portfolio companies were going to be whole. So we're dealing with this cash burn, trying to weather the storm, and we couldn't just sit on our hands. And so I give all credit to Jeremiah. He's like, I see this huge market in sanitizer. Is there any way that we can get into that? I think the problem is there's sanitizer available, but there's not enough people to bottle it or to get it out there. So we essentially went from just working out of our basements in quarantine mode, semi-depressed, to springing into action, finding bottling equipment, sourcing sanitizer in bulk, scouring eBay for bottles and bottle caps. We had connections in the bourbon industry. They were telling us how to set up the bottling equipment. And we spun up a sanitizer bottling line in basically like 10 days and started selling that to distributors. And that was, aside from the PPP loan, that was the only thing that got us through the summer and into January when our funding finally closed.
Well, give advice, to entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs that are listening on, what your mindset became, in that survival period of time. Like, what was that like? And walk us through emotionally what you were going through, and ultimately just how you got yourself to do that. Because, a lot of people, they're faced with something like that, and they, might sit back and say, man, the world's, really, really hitting me hard, and, I'm gonna let it happen and wait for this to pass and see what happens afterwards. And if I'm alive, that's great. But I mean, you guys obviously didn't do that. Talk through what it takes to do that.
Well, I think first and foremost, you gotta have a good team around you. And again, I give the credit to Jeremiah. He was a true leader during that time. It was like, there were months where we weren't able to pay ourselves, but there was no lifeline coming if we didn't get out there and hustle. So you see a market and you take advantage of it. I mean, that's what we did with the pods. We saw an opportunity. We had an idea that we could create this product and get it out there and people would buy it. What we were able to do is go to these suppliers that we knew weren't able to get sanitizer, and we said, hey, if we could create this product, would you buy it? And so we were getting pre-orders for the product before we would even go out and buy it, because the cash position we were in, we didn't have, let alone PO in hand, if we didn't have money in hand for the order, we weren't going to buy anything. And so again, kudos to Jeremiah for basically getting cash in advance for these orders. And we just put our engineering minds to work and just figured it out.
Yeah, and catch us up to date on the current state of the company now that, hopefully the worst part of COVID, or at least the worst part of the lockdowns and restaurants being shut down. What's going on currently within FreshFry?
Yes, we closed the Series A in early July. So that money we're putting to work by just hiring the best folks we can find. And so we hired some support staff. We've got food safety and quality assurance. We've got marketing now. We've got an accounting team. And then we've really trying to build out our sales team at this point. So we're really optimistic that the market's going to recover. And I see it as the other side of prohibition. People are going to be like, okay, you told me I can't go to a restaurant for a year. And then once they're able to go back, I think it's going to be crazy. So we want to be there whenever the restaurants are able to open and recover. So we're putting people into place, putting processes into place to really test the waters and then be ready for all these folks to get back out there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that story is so amazing, and the fact that you push through so many different obstacles is amazing. So congrats to you guys to getting to where you are today, and we're looking forward to hearing what happens after things open back up. I'm right there with you. I'm expecting a major bounce back, because I'm just dying to go back to restaurants and the night scene and just have fun again and be around people, and restaurants are a core way of doing that. So we're excited to see what happens for you guys right after this hard period of time. Let's talk about, I want to talk about, the local community here, and you guys are in Lexington. So talk about your experience, or you guys are in Louisville. Talk about your experience in Louisville of starting a company and the support you've gotten and how they've, really helped you guys along the way.
Yeah, we came on the scene around 2016. So that's when we quit our full-time engineering jobs to do work on FreshFry full-time. And luckily we kind of had a network before that. I mean, one of a close friend of ours, Alex Frohmeyer, had just started a company in Louisville, closed a huge round of funding. Fortunately, it took him to Columbus, but he was always a mentor of ours to say, here's the network that I was able to tap into to raise a seed round. Here's kind of a playbook. Here's how I did it. And we were able to learn a lot from him. Jeremiah actually went through the vote awards, won the vote awards. So, around mid 2016, we had a little bit of vote awards money, great mentor base, and basically a Rolodex of people that had written checks historically for startup companies. And then you just go to work networking. And you just pitch as many people as you can. You have to put your pride aside and start asking family members and friends of family members. And but the startup scene has changed quite a bit since 2016. I mean, Endeavor rolled into town. They have the Scale Up program. We were part of that. There's Launch It, put on by the university, and there's tons of resources out there if you want to take advantage of them. And I love that a lot of them some of them started to splinter, but it seems like some of them are starting to come back and consolidate based on the region. And it's been great to see the amount of support. I mean, everybody here is willing to celebrate the wins with you. It's really finding those people who can be open and honest about some of the failures and allow you to learn from those as well.
Yeah, and we also like giving, a chance to talk about what could be done better in your particular community. So what are some things Louisville could be doing better as it relates to the startup ecosystem?
That one's tough. I mean, I don't have a lot of bad experiences that we've had, in the startup space. It's just one thing that I have noticed is you close a seed round or you get a little bit of money, and then everybody celebrates that win, and then sometimes you kind of get left to yourself to just go figure it out. But there's been a lot more support pop up for that, in between phase. It's like, okay, now you have some money. Here's how you can, build product market fit, or here's how you go to market. And some of those other programs are coming around, especially that, the Endeavor Scale Up program. We love being a part of that.
Yeah, talk about that a bit, because we've had several of the Endeavor companies on. Scale Up is, I think, relatively new to Endeavor. I could be mistaken there, but talk about that program. Give us some details of what it helped you and what that looked like to go through.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we were the first group of companies to go through that program for Louisville. And it's kind of a precursor to becoming an Endeavor company. So they introduce you to the network, some of the resources available, but they really start to bring in some of the heavy hitters within the Endeavor network. So we were set up with 2 mentors that we were able to meet with on really as often as we wanted to, but it was structured as a monthly meet, and you just set out to accomplish 4 or 5 really big things. And we were able to do that with the mentors that we worked with. But it's basically, it's in the name, just trying to figure out how you scale up the idea that you have and using the tools that other entrepreneurs have used to get there.
Cool. Well, we always want to end on a forward-looking statement. So in this case, give us a forward-looking statement on where you see FreshFry going, and what the future looks like for the frying oil industry, because it's not one that people talk about often. I think it's one of those really cool industries that there's opportunity everywhere. Obviously, it's one of those things that's not pretty. It makes you think of Dirty Jobs, the TV show, which everybody loved, because it was cool to see like behind the scenes of many of these everyday jobs that you don't think much about. And nobody, I think, or they order food at Wendy's or these fast food restaurants, think about, man, what happens to my oil afterwards? So give us a sense of the future of FreshFry and the future of the frying oil industry going forward.
Well, when you think of running a restaurant, besides the people and besides the food, the frying oil is pretty close to the next highest expense. So our goal for the future is to develop either more products or processes for anybody running a restaurant to never think about oil again. We want to be the go-to people for oil, how it's getting to the restaurant, how it's working within the restaurant, and how it leaves the restaurant. I spoke about that circular economy. If we can find better ways to reuse the oil, extend the life of the oil, make better oil, all of those things play into the sustainability. Because if your fryer goes down in your restaurant, you're pretty much screwed. It's just like if your point of sale system goes down. So it's equally as important, and we want to make sure that we're valuing the people that are cooking the food as much as we are the food itself.
Yeah. Awesome. And so as we wrap up here, we always like giving our guests a time to kind of plug themselves. So if we have any listeners that are listening right now that want to learn more about FreshFry, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, you can go to our website, www.freshfry.me. You can find out a little bit more about our product there, find out a little bit more about our team. We're a little behind getting that up to date on all the new people that we've hired on. We went from 3 people to now 7, so we've doubled the team.
Awesome. Jacob, thanks so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your evening.